Hey, it's Romania Black, and you know what? In this set of episodes today, the theme is how things can go really good and then end up not going good. So basically, I have been very fortunate to have Reiki, who's a patron over on Patreon. They have been not only going to the Reddit group that is making fan translated subtitles for this series, but Reiki has taken time out of their day to put those subtitles together for me, get the episodes ready, and I've been like trying to be like, hey, are those episodes ready? And they're like, yeah, give me some time. And so they've been super patient with me and super kind and super helpful, and they got episodes 11 and 12 ready for me today. I was so excited. I had stuff to do today. So when I got home, it was like 7 o'clock at night. And I was like, I'm going to sit down, get myself ready, and watch episodes 11 and 12. And it's going to be great. And it was. I watched the 2 episodes, did all that, got it all ready. And it was 9 o'clock. And I was like, well, you know what? I've got time this evening. I'll just go ahead and edit it. And so I went to get my stuff ready to start editing, and I opened up the file, and then as I was looking at the video, I pressed play, and there was me talking, and there was no audio, and I realized this lovely microphone that's here was not turned on. And I'll tell you, I record the actual video of you watching me is done through QuickTimes, and then I have a program that records the screen capture, and you have to do different software because it's just that. And I'm not a tech savvy person, so I went to the Discord distraught, being like, fuck. And so they were like, well, can you get 2 separate audios? I'm like, no, QuickTime does not have a feature that lets you separate audio into 2 different files. It doesn't do that. It's very low tech, which I like about it, but when you don't have the thing working properly to start with, then it's a problem. So I didn't know what to do, and so I had a good cry about it because I was like, I felt like, I'm like, do I re-record the episodes? But I can't fake the reaction to you all. That's not right. That wouldn't even look good. I'd be like, hey, oh no, this happened. And I was like, I'm not going to do that and be disingenuous. And then I was like, well, do I just talk through the episodes? What do I do? I was so distraught because I felt like I'd failed Reiki. Sorry. Damn it. Because they went to all that trouble to get these episodes ready for me, and then I did that reaction, and it was just like, oh, so, damn it. Anyway, I was like, damn it, I'm not gonna cry anymore. So anyway, it's just so frustrating, because I really enjoyed both these episodes, although I'm, like, terrified for Liu Ye. So, we're gonna instead, there's a link down below. You can watch my reaction. You won't get any audio, so I'm sorry about that. There won't be any audio, but you can at least see my reaction. I had some great zingers too, damn it, that I'm going to have to go back through and talk about in this episode. But I'm going to just basically review the episode with you all, and that's just going to be it, and we're just going to go through it this week. And I'm so sorry. My lesson has been learned. Since I've gotten this microphone, I've not had this issue happen. And so usually before I got the microphone, I was just using the audio of the room. Well, that worked out fine. You didn't have any worries about that, but the audio was kind of shitty. And so now I'm like, the compromise is you have much better audio, but if you don't turn the damn mic on, you won't have any audio. And I was like, ah! So yeah. So that was kind of my problem. So anyway, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So that's the case in point. Make sure the mic is on, damn it. But yeah, so I'm just going to walk through it. This week is going to be a little bit different. There is a link down below. You can watch the entire episode. You can see my visual reactions. You just won't get to see me talk about it, but we're just going to talk through the episoode, episodes 11 and 12 this week, and go through it. I did get a couple comments from Patreon and YouTube. Chi Fon Yang, 1983, pointed out that each episode title is from Tagore's book. And Tagore is an Indian philosopher. They were a painter during a Renaissance there in India. They are a writer. They're a philosopher, a poet. They're very well known in India and across the world. So I think it's interesting that the titles are from Tagore's book. So they're from this philosopher. But that ties into Lu Guang and Heshu, which we'll talk about in this set. And then GGZBHS5589 point out that there is a China Times Square. It's called China Square, and it's in Chengdu, which is a capital that's called the capital city of Panda. So there is that. So I'm just so frustrated. I feel like I've let you all down by not getting these reactions out like I want them to, but hopefully you all see the link down below, and we'll just talk about these episodes. And so I'm really sorry. The other thing is, because the fan Reddit group that is making the fan translations, they are taking their time to do this. After this week, I'm hoping that episodes 13 and 14, I really need episode 13 and 14 to be next week, especially after the cliffhanger that happens in episode 12. I'm like, so I really am hoping that by next week, when you all watch this, episodes 13 and 14 will be out. But I don't know. So my plan is, I've got several extra things, kind of like how last week was. I needed last week. Last week was a nice little palate cleanser. It was a nice refresher. I felt really good afterwards, and I sat down for this for 2 hours, and after 2 hours of recording, I was like, well, that was a lot of fun. I felt so good. And then just, I feel like Liu Ye today. I feel like him, where it's just like, and it's not the end of the world. It's just frustrating. Anyway, so hopefully episodes 13 and 14 are up and ready to go next week, but if they're not, then I'll have an extra to watch. And if for some reason episodes 13 and 14 are ready to go and I don't need the extra anymore, then I'll just move the extra to like Sunday afternoon or something. So after Utina, I'll just have it on the channel. But I'm going to try to have some backups just in case. But my hope is, if we're halfway through the season at this point, my hope is that we'll be able to go watch the rest of Link Click's live action season into October, and then we'll be caught up, and that'll give us a couple months before season 3 starts, which will be a lot of fun as well. But, and I wanted to say also, Reiki was telling me, they were like, do you want to have like a moderator for spoilers and things like that? And I was like, no. Luckily, I know I complained about at the beginning of last week's set that I didn't want any spoilers. Luckily, there hasn't been any since then, which has been really good to see. So I'm not worried about that. I just, was just, I was such a good reaction too. I was so proud of that reaction. I was so happy about it. And then no audio. So, so frustrating as a content creator when you have a major technical error and you're just like, fuck. Is basically how I feel. So, anyway, let's talk about episodes 11 and 12. I thought going into this episode set that maybe we just have like a standalone little side story that would just last for episodes 11 and 12. This is going to be an arc just like the boxing match. It's going to be an arc into episodes 13 and 14. Maybe even longer. Who knows? But we're going to talk in chronological order about this. So starting out this episode, I really, really appreciate just the set design. I've talked about the cast and the crew and everything, but the set is so good. And can we talk about Lu Guang? Can we talk about him in this opening scene where Cheng Jiushi is talking with the boxer, and he's like, oh, I forgot to ask him to sign my boxing gloves. And Lu Guang bringing in the boxing gloves signed for him. And not just any boxing gloves, but the gloves from the match where Cheng Jiushi was him. I don't even know what to say. I was just so floored by that. And I was just like, the actor that plays Lu Guang is so good. I love him as an actor, and his little smirks and smiles like through it. I'm like, you did that for Cheng Jiushi. You got him that. Look at you. I thought that was so sweet. I was told in the comments that the actor that plays Cheng Jiushi, or the actor that plays Lu Guang rather, Lu Guang's actor is normally, I guess he's pretty popular there in China, but he is normally the star in a lot of comedies. And so a lot of people were commenting. I think the people commenting have not seen the Donghua, because the commenter was saying that some of the people were like, oh, well, he seems kind of like stoic and wooden. And I was like, well, he's Lu Guang, and that's exactly how Lu Guang's character is in the Donghua, and he slowly warms up and kind of the ice melts around him over time. But I feel like Lu Guang's actor has done so good. And I think that it helps that he's done a lot of comedies, because there's a lot of little micro expressions that he does, and a lot of comedic timing that he does, especially in this episode set, that's like, oh, your comedy background definitely helped with that. But I thought that was so sweet that he got him the boxing gloves. And of course, Cheng Jiushi freaks out and he's having a great time with it. It's super, super cute. I also like how we've established that Lu Guang drinks a lot of coffee. Like, that was a theme that was throughout this episode set, was him drinking all the espresso. And when Cheng Jiushi's so excited about the gloves and Lu Guang's like, well, I'm just glad you liked it. I was like, oh, quit being demure, sir. Quit being demure. Come on now. It was just really, really cute. So yeah, basically we are back in action again. Episode 11 is called The Best Do Not Come Alone. And we get, Cheng Jiushi gets Lu Guang to help out at the family restaurant, making the sticks and the kebabs. And Xiaoling basically asks to be the manager. So I like that we're getting the tie-in to the Donghua. We're getting everything tied into the Donghua. We're getting everything established. We're catching back up to the present. I thought her weaseling her way in and being like, and having the Time Photo Studio, her coming up with the name and transitioning it from Cheng Jiushi, I thought that was really cute. And I don't remember the Donghua having the Time Studio with the red sign out front, but I guess it did, and I just didn't notice it until they redid it. But I thought that whole scene with her and them was really, really cute. I thought it was sweet. And basically, I like that Cheng Jiushi and Lu Guang both kind of share a brain cell in that scene, because they're both kind of at her mercy, and Lu Guang doesn't want to be rude. Cheng doesn't know how to outsmart his sister. So she manages to like work her way in. And so now we have it kind of caught up with Donghua of how she gets associated with the group. And it's going to make sense for her to get associated with the group when we have the whole thing with Liu Ye happen, and she needs them to help do the mission of saving him. So it was a nice, very clean segue from last week's episode set into this one. It worked out really, really well, and I thought that was neat. But I love the paint scene for a lot of reasons, where they're just painting the room. One, they have the little paper hats that look like little sailboats so they don't get their hair, paint in their hair, which is such a cute idea. But also, I love the fact that Lu Guang is painting as slow and methodical as possible, and Cheng Jiushi's just splattering paint everywhere and spreading it. It's so cute. I loved it. It was great. And Xiaoling is just, managing and giving advice on what to do. But yeah, also Lu Guang's little apron was really cute. It's just this whole series, the cast of characters get along so well together, and they have such good chemistry. And there's just like little tiny details with their clothing, with the different things around the room, which we're going to talk about. It was just all really, really well done. So, and then yeah, and Xiaoling and Cheng Jiushi like just bickering back and forth at each other like siblings. But yeah, they unveil the new sign, and we get the Time Photo Studio. So Lu Guang is still creating videos for his teacher, even though his teacher has passed. He's still creating videos, his little video blog, to record everything that's happening. And of course, Cheng Jiushi interrupts him, and Cheng's like, oh, are you an internet celebrity? And he's like, no. So then there's the bracelet. So there's different things in there. There's a stamp. There is a clover pin. There's a locket. There's a bracelet. There is a set of bells. I didn't actually notice this in the reaction. And then there is it a logbook? Something says, I want to see what that says. Does it say stray something? Okay, it says stray birds. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, Cheng recognizes the bracelet that he's seen before, and that's going to come back and be an important thing here. And Lu Guang basically talks about how having Xiaoling and having Cheng Jiushi as his two coworkers, it makes it feel more like he felt when he was with his teacher. It feels like a family. And so I like Lu Guang, like the ice melting around his heart, and he's starting to get familiar with both of them and recognize them as not just, teammates, but also kind of like family. It's really sweet. I like it a lot. And we have that picture of the Northern Lights. We're going to talk about the Northern Lights here in a minute. But I love that throughout Cheng Jiushi's room, there is not only slam dunk merch, there's like a slam dunk poster, there's like a framed shadow box, but there's also like a Jinbei figure from One Piece just there. Why not? But yeah. So they get the grand opening and all this, and they take the photo, and then they decide to do like a team bonding mission to go out just camping randomly. They're like, let's just do like a team bonding weekend trip. Let's go camp out in the wilderness. And I like how the dad is like, you sure? Like, I don't think you guys need to be camping. But they decide to, and Liu Ye goes along with them, which is super cute. I love Liu. I think he's such a great character. But just like Xiaoling can ask Liu Ye to come along with them, Cheng Jiushi asks old Dr. Heshu to come along as well. And the tension between Heshu and Lu Guang, I was like, I had heart eyes the entire set of episodes. I had heart eyes, especially episode 11 with Lu Guang and Heshu. I said this in the reaction. I am a diehard Cheng Jiushi Lu Guang shipper. They are OTP. I am down for them. I want to protect them no matter what the cost. But there's like a tiny little dark side of me that wants to like hate ship. I want to like hate ship Heshu and Lu Guang because the tension between the two of them is palpable. And there were several moments during the camping trip I was like, and you guys will see that in the reaction down below, even though you won't hear me being like, what the fudge. So yeah, he shows up, not suspicious at all. He looks great with his perfect hair and his like glasses and perfect complexion. And he's like, oh, hey, Lu Guang, how you doing? Lu Guang's like, Like, I just like the animosity between them. It's the most passive aggressive and it's just so damn good. And so he's like, oh, your business cards, huh? And then what does he say what does he call it? He was like, we were a little aggressive last time. And so he gives him the card and he says, what was the name of it? Damn it. I'm going to have to go back to this and see real quick. He's like, and Lu Guang's like, oh no, I forgot already. We're good. And he's like, here's my business card. So you got it. And he's like, And so when he looks at it, it says cool breeze and warm sunshine. I don't know. Seems a little too friendly, especially when we have the conversation in the tent later on during the movie, which we'll talk about. I was like, that name of that clinic seems awfully cutesy for this black card. So anyway, I like that Cheng Jiushi thought they were going to have a house or a cabin to stay in because I was under that impression as well. I thought they were staying in a cabin, but no, they are legit camping in the wilderness under a tent. And I was like, oh, I'm not much of a tent camper personally. Although when I say tent camping, I'm like, this is the most bougie of tents. Like, it's a 4-person tent, but it has like an awning on either side. It's huge and open and has like the net and everything. It's very bougie. My biggest thing is, how did Heshu set this whole damn thing up himself? Because it's like set up and ready to go when they get there. That is the only aspect of this episode that has like there's one in episode 12 that distracts me and kind of like broke through the wall of disbelief. But the only thing I was like, how did Heshu set up this whole tent thing by himself? Because I've set up a tent before and it is not a 1-person job. You got like a team helping you to build that tent. So, okay, sure, sir. Now, he does tell Xiaoling, he's like, hey, we 4 guys, we're going to stay in this tent. And she's like, well, where the hell am I going to stay? And he's like, you could sleep in my car. And she's like, you have a really nice car. Also, he has like a really nice, like $100,000 SUV. And then also like a Triumph black motorcycle. Your psychology checks are sure raking in some dough for your clinic to have all this, have these black, not ominous vehicles at all. I am dead certain that Heshu is suspicious and is going to be somebody that's going to be a problem later on, but I can't pinpoint. We don't have enough information about him to pinpoint exactly how. We get a little inkling of it during the camp out, but that's it. So I'm very curious to see like what we end up getting from his character later on. So yeah, I like the little stream and it's super cute and they have the bridge. And what does he say there? He was like, because she's like, what are these? There's so many things that you had. Like his vehicle is like the TARDIS. It just has things coming out. And he's like, oh, well, I had done a solo driving trip for a year before coming to Guido. So this car is like my home. whatever is in that house will be in the car. And he's like, you don't need to ask about it. I'm like, that is a little suspicious, especially since you have a motorcycle too. I'm like, so you basically lived out of your vehicle. That to me, I did not talk about this in the reaction. That to me is a little weird because I'm like, so if you were traveling around doing jobs kind of like Lu Guang, you could live out of your car. My theory is I think him and Lu Guang are the same. I think they're both people that can connect with people to change events, or he has some kind of power similar to Lu Guang, right? I feel like that's the case with him. I don't know for sure, but that's just how I feel. Or he has a special ability like the twins, or like the black hatted like leader or whatever from the end of season 2. I have a feeling he's similar to that, but he doesn't want to come out and say it, and he's trying to feel Lu Guang out to see if he's the same way. That's just my theory. It could get challenged as we go along. We'll see. But yeah. So I like they play the game of Never Have I Ever. It took me a second in the reaction to figure out what exactly they were playing, but they're doing Never Have I Ever, and I like that Lu Guang is just sitting there like just chugging coffee. He's gonna be chugging coffee the rest of the evening, right? So I feel like he's like, I really don't want to play this game, but I don't have a choice. I thought it was interesting that it got down to the wire, and we were down to Heshu and Lu Guang. And Lu Guang is like, and that's when they start talking about the Northern Lights. So he's like, I want to watch the Northern Lights. I envy you. So I feel like with Liu Ye, that's going to be a thing. I hope it is. I hope that we help Liu Ye see the Northern Lights, because he definitely needs to see some good things after this last episode. But the way I was instantly suspicious the moment they brought up the Northern Lights, and Lu Guang's like eyeing Heshu, because Lu Guang's teacher was killed in an area where you can see the Northern Lights, and the last picture that he has of her has the Northern Lights in it. And Heshu was like, oh, I recently saw the Northern Lights. And I'm like, oh, did you now? So that seems awfully suspicious. And I feel like Lu Guang's kind of onto him for that, being like, did you really see the Northern Lights? Are you connected to all this? Is he connected to his teacher's death? We don't know yet, but it feels suspicious, right? And I feel like with Liu Ye wanting to see the Northern Lights, we're going to get to that eventually, hopefully, maybe, perhaps. But they're down to one lie left each. And Lu Guang says that he can cook. And Heshu's like, I can cook too. And so then Heshu, he cheats, right? Which is ironic, but he was like, oh, well, I've never lied. And I've never cheated. And Lu Guang's like, never mind. I was like, damn it. So, I mean, we know from Lu Guang from the Donghua later on, he's going to be sacrificing quite a bit to keep Cheng Xiuxi safe, and that is going to involve lying and cheating. So, I'm very curious about that. But Heshu saying that he's never done either. Okay, sure, Jan. Sure. We'll believe that. So, yeah, anyway, I like that Lu Guang he's happy that Cheng Xiuxi's happy, but he doesn't like this whole situation. So then we have this really good scene where Heshu and Lu Guang are like cooking together, right? And Heshu tries to apologize, being like, oh, I didn't mean to like offend you earlier when I called you a liar and a cheater. And Lu Guang's like, okay. So then we have Xiaoling taking the photos of herself where she's like posing by the stream. And I not only love how sweet Liu Ye is, just like being her friend, taking her picture. He clearly likes her, but he's going through too much trauma right now to deal with saying that to her. But I also love the sibling banter between Cheng Xiuxi and her, where he's like trying to fish with a much too small net in the stream, and then he ends up flinging water on her. Like, it's such a sibling thing to do. It's super, super cute. But meanwhile, while they're doing that, I noticed that they've taken a lot of pictures of each other, like a lot of pictures of each other. So if we ever have to go back to this moment in time, we've got a lot of different vantage points, a lot of different ways we can do that. But meanwhile, while they're having a good time, Heshu is watching both of them, looking like a creeper, watching both of them being creepy. And Lu Guang's like, hey, you're letting your steaks burn. You might want to flip those. He's like, oh, yeah, sure. I don't know. During the reaction, I was like, I don't know if I would eat anything that he cooked. I was like, I don't know if I would eat any of his food. You might get food poisoning, all of you. I can't decide what Heshu's issue or mission with Chang is, but I don't feel comfortable about it, especially when he's creepily looking over at him. Don't feel comfortable about that at all. He's just glaring and glancing a little too hard. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they end up serving the meal to everybody. I love how Xiaoling, when she picks up her liquor, she like holds her little beer cup like a dang koala, like just holds it in her hands. It's super, super cute. But they're like going there to eat dinner, and as they're like passing all the food and everything, and they cheers and have their beer, that's when Xiaoling, she like passes out afterwards in the car that's Heshu's. And I like that Liu Ye was going to go check on her, and they're like, no, we're fine. So they're going to play like a card game, like poker or something like that. But instead, of all things, Heshu pulls out Spider-Man from 1999. Party like it's 99, I guess, right? I think that's so funny. I know the fandom has debated for so long if Lu Guang is legitimately as old as he says he is, or if he's older. But I was like, Heshu, are you in the same boat? Because you're pulling out a movie from like 20 years ago? What? But yeah, he pulls out Spider-Man of all movies, which is, I felt so old because Liu Ye is like, oh, what a classic. And I was like in like junior high when that came out. I was like, classic, huh? I was like, oh no. But yeah, I thought that was such a funny movie to be chosen of all the movies. But yeah, they have the projector, they're watching a movie, and then while it's going on, that's when Liu Ye brings up Hybla. And I like that during that moment he brings up Hybla and the Northern Lights, Heshu and Lu Guang are like looking at each other like, what are you going to say about it? What do you know about it? And it's just so suspicious, and there's so much tension between the two of them. It's such a good scene. You'll see down in the reaction below, I was living for it throughout the entire experience. But yeah, so then they talk about high energy particles, that the three conditions have to be there. There has to be the ozone, magnetic fields, and high energy particles had to be present for the Northern Lights to take place. I'm really curious because Link Click, this live action version, does seem a little bit different than the Donghua. I know we've had the theory of it being like a parallel universe or something like that because Liu Ye is not in the Donghua, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But the powers and abilities that like Liu has seem to be set up in a different way than the Donghua. Like it's connected more towards, it's got more of like a scientific explanation, like it has to do with magnetic fields, but then it's connected with their phones. I don't exactly know how it works. It's fine. I'm not, it's an okay thing. I'm not questioning it, but obviously Liu, I'm wondering if Liu and Heshu, if their abilities came from being near the Northern Lights and it messed with them. I don't know, but Liu yet wants to go see them. So I wonder if we're eventually going to get that, if we're going to get that, that plot point happening. Because then they talk about the magnets and everything. It's like, I just want to see the Northern Lights. I really want to go there and see them. Anyway, so there's the movie still on, or the movie just ended, and they're getting ready for bed, and of course Chang's Yoshi asks what happened, and for a second I was like, is Liu Ye gonna spoil the end of Spider-Man? But he just explains enough and then says you gotta watch the movie again to find out the rest of it. And that leads to the conversation about the lever question. It's basically the train pulley question. And it's this theory where you have a choice. You have a train going down a track, and it can either go one of two ways. One way, the train's going to kill 5 people. The other way, the train is going to kill 1 person. Which track do you choose? And so they pose this question, and Heshu asks Chang's Yoshi the question. And Chang doesn't exactly answer right off, but Chang's like, well, I'd have to think about it first. And I like that. He's like, well, in this situation, he's like, it's better to make some considerations. And at first, that seems like what Lu Guang expects him. He's like, oh, you answered that way. Nice. Good job. But Heshu kind of presses it, right? And Lu Guang's like, what is there to consider? Only those who are utilitarian would use a life in exchange for 5. Can a life simply be weighed 1 to 5? So then Lu Guang, and what I love about it is that during this whole scene, like Liu Ye and Chang's Yoshi were just talking about Spider-Man. They were just talking about the Green Goblin, talking about Mary Jane. Meanwhile, Lu Guang and Heshu are having this like 3D chess match against each other and philosophical battles and debates. And I'm like, oh my God, we're on 2 different levels right now. And this is getting a little crazy. And Heshu, he, says, well, no matter what, you can't sacrifice not even one of the others, since those in moralism are not less. And he's like, I don't think there is anything wrong. And I like that Chang's like, is this really happening? So then Heshu's like, okay, well, what if one of them was a terrorist? And one of them was your family? Does that change the condition? And what I love about it is Lu Guang, he's like, well, first, nobody knows about the future. We can't, the future or the past, let it be. He's like, nobody can know what the future is going to hold. And he's like, even if someone knew, and he's like, well, so you're going to choose to do nothing. And I feel like this conversation was getting into territory that was beyond just the discussion of the train problem. I feel like Heshu is literally saying, so are you comfortable not changing the future if it means saving lives? And Lu Guang's like, excuse me, changing the future is a really big thing and could destroy the fabric of time and space itself. So you can't just do that willy-nilly, which makes me believe that Heshu has access or some knowledge of what's going on. It was too suspicious of a conversation for it not to be. He's like, if someone is looking at the future, they're also looking at the past. The life can be weighed. And he's like, you save those who deserve to be saved, those who don't deserve to be saved. And Lu Guang's like, so who decides who gets to be saved and who deserves it or not? And it's like, it's so tense. It's so tense. And the two of them just looking at each other, like, I like that every time, like, Heshu, like, just does the glasses thing. He just pushes those glasses up whenever he's getting a little flustered. I was, oh my God. I could watch the two of them have conversations for days because their actors know how to be so intense while also being so engaging and in character. I could watch Heshu and Lu Guang have conversations all day long. I wish this scene was expanded upon. And Heshu's like, well, I didn't expect you to react so big. And Lu Guang's like, and I like that Liu Ye, he basically cuts the tension by being like, hey, I published a book. Will you come to my book signing? And they're like, yeah, change the subject. Let's do that instead. So the next day we have Lu Guang sitting outside early by the river stream with his cup of coffee, and Chang comes out there to see him. And then Xiaoling comes up with the grapes, and Chang's Yoshi causes her to drop a bunch of them, which honestly I would not eat those grapes after she dropped them. I'd be like, hell to the no. But the dropped grapes makes Chang remember the bracelet and tell Lu about it. And then Lu Guang's like, okay. They go back and they discover that yes, it is the same bracelet. The one that he broke is the same one from before. It's just been put back together. So the ring girl from the past is connected to Lu Guang's teacher. Somehow. We don't know how yet, but somehow they're connected. And Lu Guang spends a large portion of this episode set trying to track down information about her, which turns out to just basically lead him to a bunch of dead ends. Although Chang's Yoshi does get a spa trip out of it, so the day is not completely wasted. But Lu Guang ends up trying to find all this information. And meanwhile, everything was going so well for Liu Ye. Yeah, he was starting to get his own solo assignments. His book signing went great. he was like making some headway. Maybe it looked like with Zhao Ling. Like things were looking so good for him. And that's why this episode and episode 12 was so sad, because you just see this character like going up in the world and then it all comes crashing down. And it's so freaking sad. So yeah, everything's going well for him, and he asks Xiao Ling to come to his book signing. The only bad thing that happens to him this episode is that he has this book, right? And the book that he has, he asks her to come to the book signing, and she says that she'll come to it, but she ends up not showing up to the book signing, which is kind of sad. He won't tell her what the book is about. I wondered if the book was about Xiao Ling, or if the book was about him like trying to confess to her, or what the case may be, which if the book is about him trying to confess to her, then considering what happens to him in episode 12, that doesn't help matters much, but for his reputation among others that are reading his book. But I was very curious what the book would be about, and I thought that this episode set was going to tell us that, so I'm hoping that we get more information about that in episodes to come. So, and I hope that Liu Ye is okay, which we'll talk about him with episode 12. But yeah, so one thing I was so mad about with this reaction not working is that Chang Xiaoxi shows up with his orange outfit, his goggles, everything, and Lu Guang has a matching helmet, matching green duds, and they both get on a moped together and ride through town. And I was like, no, this is amazing. And so y'all will get to see my reaction, obviously, but I was like, this is so good. And damn it, I also love that the bike he has was not fast enough to outdo the motorcycle or the bicycle. And then Heshu's like, well, I have my own bike, this Triumph motorcycle that's probably 60 grand. What do you say? I was like, bitch, what? I like that Lu Guang is like, Chang's bike's better. And I was like, sure it is. But anyway, the only part of episode 11 that is kind of bizarre to me is that when Xiaoling is sitting with her friend like starts to cry and starts to have a breakdown. Xiaoling's like, what's going on? And then while she's crying, she's like, Xiaoling. And then she says that she was molested. And Xiaoling's like, what? Here's the thing. This episode set, it really was something that I felt very personal about because I've had similar experiences to the women in this episode. And so I felt for them, but I don't know. There was something about like the way the girl was crying, the friend Shan, she was like, "Meh." And the way she was crying, it wasn't funny, but like it was almost, I don't want to say it was comical, but it was not the laugh of someone who had been through an incident like that. No, it was just like, I got a D on my exam. That's what it sounded like. And I was like, oh, I was like, is this, it was a very over the top melodramatic cry that I didn't feel the sincerity out of. And this cast has been so good so far. It was the one moment of the episode that like took me out. And I was like, oh, but that was the only time. Everything else was spot on. But I feel bad that she sets up the events that are going to unfold with this episode and episode 12. So I feel for her. And it's line 7. As it says, line 7 keeps having issues, and even the evening news reported about it, but the perpetrator hasn't been caught. And so I feel Xiaoling wanting to do something about it. And so she doesn't show up at the book signing, sadly, because she was helping her friend, Shan. Meanwhile, of course, the two men go for the same book together. They both reach for the same book. At that moment, I was like, I kind of hate ship them, Lu Guang and Heshu, because they're both looking for the same philosophical book. I also think adding to, also the back of his shirt has a triangle on it. I don't know if that means anything for Heshu. Probably not. So, Heshu makes a comment to Lu Guang that the beefsteak he made the day before was good, but it would be better if you'd added some pesto and some basil to it. And I love Lu Guang's response being like, I know, but I didn't know if everybody liked basil and pesto. And I was like, oh, mic drop, bitch. I love that Lu Guang's like, I'm trying to be fair for everybody, not just myself, and to show off. And I was like, oh, it was so good. And of course, Heshu is just like, touche, bitch. I could watch them for days. I could watch them endlessly, if I'm being honest. So yeah, Heshu just doesn't understand the moped, has his own motorcycle, brags about it, rides off into the sunset, and Lu Guang's like, really? Really? Meanwhile, I thought this series, it made it really creepy when you had Liu Ye find the cat and bring it into his house. He has a Stephen Curry pillow, like a Golden State Warriors pillow. It's the only thing that stands out in this apartment. I was like, everything else has kind of like the same vibe, but then there's just a random Golden State Warriors pillow on the couch with the cat, and I was like, why is that there? So it's just so weird. But yeah, so he has Gautier. He has Gautier and he has Dante, and then he names this new cat Shakespeare. I'm like, all of his cats are named after different authors, which is adorable. But when he finds the cat, it was kind of creepy and ominous, right? But I feel so much for Liu Ye because he's so sweet. And the editor of the place that they both work, she's really nice. And I honestly was worried when all the stuff in episode 12 was going down that she was not going to be very forgiving and was not going to understand or believe in Liu Ye, but she does. She does believe in him. So we have them working overtime at the shop, and Liu Ye and Xiaoling, they both get everything set up. He has this story that he wants to do, and that keeps getting brought up. He keeps having this story that he wants to do for the channel. Obviously, with the events of episode 12, that's getting pushed back, but I am kind of curious to know, like, what were his plans? What was he doing? What story did he want to write about? And so with the Northern Lights situation and the story he wanted to write about, I am hopeful because I'll be honest with y'all. As episode 12 was going on, one thing I kept being like was, I want him to be okay. And I was really, and am really nervous about his character. Because I'm like, is he going to try to hurt himself? I don't want him to do that. That's not cool. And the only thing that's keeping me like somewhat hopeful is I'm like, okay, we have the high blood Northern Lights and he has that story he wants to do. That gives me hope that he's going to be okay because we still have those 2 plot points to go through. Don't mess this up, show. Because I really come to like Liu Ye. He's so sweet and kind and considerate. And for him to be framed and misjudged for this thing he didn't do, it's so sad. I'm like, no. So... But anyway, I was really worried for him in episode 12. So anyway, as he's going through the train, he's like the only guy dressed in white. Everybody else in the train it's all packed in there. And I know that in Japan and China, a lot of these trains are jam-packed and you just can't get through. And he's trying to get through where he can like get off the train faster, I guess. Otherwise, I was like, why'd you cram up there, right? But as he's there, okay, I want to go back and see if I can notice anything about that moment and see if we saw anything. Because here's one thing. My thing is, he was holding on to the rail with one arm and he had the phone in the other. He could have just said that. He's like, I couldn't have groped you because I had the phone in my hand. But then what ends up happening? Do we get to see it? I wanted to go back and check that and see if we... Because the train moves forward slightly and then she grabs him... And here's my thing. She says, what are you doing? But she grabs his hand with the phone. I'm like, how could he grab your butt if he's holding the phone? Girl, what are you doing? But she just scapegoats all of her anger and frustration on him. And he's not done anything wrong. And, it was so horrible to watch. And they called him a gangster, which I was like, Liu Ye is like the least gangster person in this whole series. I was like, what? If you said Cheng Xiaoxi was in a gang, I'd be like, okay, sure, I believe that. But not Liu. He's the sweetest. But they all targeted him. And I felt so horrible for him. I felt so badly for him. I was like, he did nothing wrong. So we start episode 12 with all of the portraits of the cats that he has. They're not getting fed, and so everything is out of order and disarray. And there is a note that's on the desk, but we don't know what it says. So maybe if somebody can translate in the comments what it says, they can let us know. But I felt so bad for Liu. Leu Yay, this whole episode, I felt so bad for him. And I talked about it in the reaction that I kind of understand from the point as a content creator that you're out there in public, and so everything you do, people can track with their phones. They can track and follow you around, and there is like a creepy sort of parasocial aspect to it. And I felt for Liu because he's trying to establish himself as an author, and now that's ruined. He has this reputation. His book's going to be probably taken out of the bookstore. He basically leaves his job. He can't be out in public. It's just completely ruined his life. And the sad thing is, unless they go back and literally change the past, which that's one of the rules, you can't do that. Unless they change the past, it's like, even if they find the perpetrator, even if he gets convicted, there's probably still going to be a section of people that believe he did it, and he still has that reputation. Even if it's retracted, it still was there. It's like the damage has been done and it can't be reversed. And his psychological state can't necessarily be reversed. So it's like, I worry that like our sweet, innocent Liu Ye is going to be corrupted and just ruined from this experience. And I hate it for him. I'm like, Heshu, you're a therapist. I hope you can help him after this, because I have a feeling he's going to need it. It was just so sad. I hated it. At least the police, though, the one thing about the police in this episode, they at least seemed like they were kind of on board with him, being like, yeah, this seems weird. There's no evidence. So if there's no evidence, we can't convict you. So we're going to have you write a report, but it's okay, son. They at least seemed somewhat competent and like they were on it. So, or they didn't believe that he had done it. So there's that. But, and meanwhile, Chowling is trying to hold things together for him and trying to make it to where he can feel normal. But I feel like she was also trying to skirt around the problem where she wasn't acknowledging the real effects this was going to have and was just trying to put a Band-Aid on it. And he eventually snaps at her. Meanwhile, Lu Guang is trying to figure out where the sign girl is, trying to find her. And throughout all this, I like that Lu Guang, he writes down the address of where he can find information about the sign girl, leaves, and one of my favorite moments of this episode is when Chang like takes the pencil and like you're in grade school, sketches over the indents in the paper to find out what they say. I was like, bitch, that's so funny. He was so proud of himself too. It was so cute. So he goes to this like basically this spa where all this information is being gathered, and I do like this scene a lot too in the spa because it's a sign of Lu Guang and Cheng Jiushi being more comfortable around each other. And they not only feel comfortable around each other, but they're used to each other just showing up and being like, fine, we're going to work with it. And so Lu's like, here, you stay and get the spa treatment. I found the info that I needed. Love it. But yeah, poor Liu Ye. I hate it for him. His actor really sells the emotion of someone who's just having everything fall apart around them. And I was really not only worried for his mental well-being this episode, but also like his physical state. I'm like, don't hurt yourself, bud. Don't think about that. That's not good. And he does all of these self-destructing things that I feel like any of us would do in that situation. Like he looks at the videos, and when he looked at the comments, I was like, no. I was like, buddy, don't look at the comments. That's the worst thing you can do. I know from experience, don't do it. But yeah, it's just like there's a part of human nature where you want to see what people are saying about it, and you don't need to look at those comments because they're not going to help. But he does, and then it just makes him even more like unstable mentally and psychologically, and I hate it for him. I really do. And he tries to pass off that he's fine at first, but that's not what's happening. And I do like the editor-in-chief. She's like, hey, you're his best friend. Keep an eye on him. We'll let this blow over. It's fine. But they did such a good job of building up the tension with him. and just showing how it was just getting worse and worse. So his book is running in the sprightly world, and I really want to know what that book is about, right? But I don't know if we're going to find out. And so Shaolin gets him a new phone. If I got my friend a new phone because his other one was trashed, and you noticed he didn't have a great reaction, I would be like, he probably doesn't feel too good. I might want to keep an eye on him. And she does. But I think that she's trying so hard to convince herself that everything's fine, that he's going to be okay. She's not realizing how deep he's sinking into this depression and anxiety from all this happening. I hate it for him. This episode said it was hard to watch. And I like that they're talking about like the people on the train and everybody around them, they're all being affected, and calling him like a pervert and everything. And then the social media outlets, everything is trying to basically just scapegoat him and bring all this down on him so that they can just be done with the case. Like, here's the pervert, we'll scapegoat all of our anger towards him, be done with it. It sucks. It sucks a lot. Ugh. And the best friend, Shan, she is like, oh, well, I know that he wasn't Liu Ye, but I can't remember what he looks like. And I'm like, and so Xiaoling even tries to go to the university to find the girl that was assaulted. She does find the girl. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But I like that while Lu Guang is trying to find out the sign girl information, Cheng Jiushi, he's busy trying to defend Liu Ye online by like fighting against all the haters. And he's like, I haven't said 2 lines and they say they're after my family. I'm like, yeah, people on the internet are insane. And because there's no social consequences to saying whatever you want on the internet, people just think that they can say anything, and they don't think about the emotional repercussions it has on the people that are on the receiving end of that. So I like Lu Guang tells Cheng Jiushi to just wait and let the truth come to light, let the case be solved, and then after it's solved and everything's all squared up, then you can go to those accounts that were being negative Nancy's and then slam them that way. So I did like that scene between the two of them a lot. It was really good. But yeah, I think the scene, and you guys will probably see it in the reaction, the scene that got me the most was out in front of the place of work where there's all the social media people, like the person dressed up as a frog, the people with the wig on, the people that are like, we're outside the place where the pervert works to get him on film. Like, it was so insane, but real. And it was so disgusting to me because there are people who would exploit situations like that for themselves to profit from. And I'm like, this man's having his whole life torn apart. And you all are sitting there with emojis and hearts, and you're just completely profiting off of it, not caring that this is a person, a human being that's affected. Because, I mean, there's no convicting proof, so they're just basically just basing it off of rumors. I hate it. And I definitely don't blame Liu Ye for handing in his resignation. Because he's like, nope. And I like that the chief's like, look, we'll just let you take a leave of absence. And he's like, no, because he overhears that they're having their sponsorships pulled. People are complaining. They're dropping the series. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm going to leave you all. I'm going to make a statement about it. And then you guys will be left alone. And that's when I started to get really worried about him, because it's like a bad sign if somebody leaves work, if somebody isolates. Those are all bad things that happen, and they lead to like ideations of people harming themselves or taking their own life. And I'm like, I don't think the show would do that, but I don't know. And so I'm like, what if the show has him like do something that extreme, but then they can't change the past? So it just, the fact that he's also not a character in the Donghua makes me really nervous, because I'm like, well, they could kill him off and then he's not in the Donghua, and so it's a thing. But I'm like, surely they wouldn't do that, but they might. So it's just so wild. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. It's a lot. It's a lot. And him going out and standing in front of all those social media people surrounding him with their cameras and everything. It's such a social statement that, and it's so sad when he's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't touch anybody. And they're like, well, why would you resign if you weren't guilty? And he's like, well, I don't want the company to suffer because of it. And, oh. So Xiaoling does find the girl that blamed him, and she is like, well, I'm a victim. And it's like, well, yes, but you know, the person that you accused is innocent. And she's like, well, I have people hounding me now, and I don't want to be around anybody. She seemed really off from the start, so I'm curious about her story. But the thing that got me was that when the principal comes, like, she immediately, like, just shuts down. When he comes near her, she just shuts down and, like, stares at the ground and has this, like, blank, dead-eyed look in her face. And for a second, I was like, who the hell is this guy? But then it's like, oh, it's the principal of the school. So I don't know if she's been assaulted outside of the line 7, and it just took that moment in line 7 for her to lash out, or if she wasn't even molested on the train at all, and she just took but all this like anger and fear and frustration had built up inside of her, and she just let it out there and scapegoated Liu Ye to get it off her system. I don't know, but the way the president interacted with her and the way she just immediately shut down, it was very unnerving and very scary. And I was like, ooh, okay. Anyway, so yeah, I just and he tells Xiaoling to get out of there. So then she comes back and finds out that he's resigned. And she runs after him. Again, the editor knows that she needs to go to help him. And they go to a bar thinking that... when they were in the bar, I was like, look, I know it's dark in there and you can't possibly see, but I'm like, somebody's going to notice. Because he's been on all the social media and it's local. And sure enough, they're trying to have a drink. Somebody notices him and like throws a drink in his face. And that's when he tries to like distance himself from Xiaoling, and Xiaoling's like, "Oh no, it'll be fine. I'll help make things better." And when she took him away, I thought she was going to take him to her house and like keep him there where he could be around her family. Obviously, she's not going to take him to the family restaurant because then people will probably notice him there and that'll be a whole thing. But I thought she'd take him to her house or the studio, like the photo studio, and he could just hang out there and stay there with Cheng Jiushi and Lu Guang while things died down. And she'd be like, "I'll go feed your cats." But that's not what happens. She takes him to where this crane game in the arcade is to try to make him feel better. But he's like, "You're not making me feel better. You say you want to help me, but you're not hearing me out." And it's not helping at all. And he's like, "I wanted to leave." And he's like, "I just need to go alone." And then he leaves. And it's so sad. And he like walks through the rain and then he gets back to his house. And so then he gets back to his house and on the doorstep there is a box. And as soon as I saw the box, I was like, no. Mm-mm. I thought inside the box was a dead cat. I was like, there's going to be a dead cat in that box and I'm going to be done. But instead, when he picks it up and opens the box, it's a pig foot. Yeah, it's a pig's foot that's in the box. I mean, obviously, it felt like a horse's head, like a mafia leaving, like Godfather, a horse head in the bed. It felt like one of those, but so it was a pig's foot, which I'm assuming is tied to him as a molester, quote unquote, and is tying to him like, you know, you should cut off your hand, you pig, or something like that. But I hate it. So he has, on his wall, he has a picture of the Northern Lights, like he wants to go there and all of his cats. And then that actor playing Liu Ye, just having that damn breakdown, asking why. Why is this happening to me? Like, his actor just broke my heart. The whole episode was just enthralled with his story, and I felt so bad for him. So Xiaoling tries to get it to where they'll go back in time and try to prevent it from happening. And Lu Guang's like, we do not have a strong window of time. We've only got 6 minutes to get there and get this done. And I love that they go through an entire plan to go through this, and like it's this elaborate plan with roads and street signs and stoplights, and here's how much time you have to do this and do that. And I was like, this is all going to go down really quickly. I'm kind of glad that it failed, because I think it's a good time to point out that not every mission is going to be a success, and it adds the tension of, okay, that mission failed. We don't want to create too many butterfly effects. What do we do now? So it leaves us with episode 13 and 14 questioning, like, okay, what are we going to do now that this first mission failed? How's that going to work? And now we don't even know. We got to go back and tell Xiaoling that it wasn't going to work either. I liked the toilet joke that she had to go use the toilet and then she ran away to the back. And I like Lu Guang complimented him about it. I also like when it didn't work at the end, the dad's like, well, you should have listened to me. I'm a living map. Like such a dad joke, such dad joke energy. I thought that was really well done too. But just everything about these last few moments, it was so tense. And then, yeah, they just don't make it. For a hot second, though, Shang Joshi was about to take Xiaoling across the street during the red light, and I'm like, don't kill your sister on accident. But you can tell Lu Guang is frustrated. He's like, shit. So I feel like with the next episode set that they're gonna have to try to get get Liu Ye to maybe Heshu to get some therapy, and maybe try to figure out what the next step is. My thing is, they have this thing, it says Squeak Maker, and it has the link click. I'm so curious. And there's an activity log. Obviously, this is not exactly like the Donghua, but I'm very curious what all that means. I'm assuming it's going to tell us, or maybe just keep it a secret. Who knows? We'll find out. Please don't tell me. No spoilers, please. But yeah, this was such a good episode set. I'm so pissed that you all can't hear me talk through the reactions, but I really enjoyed it. It was so good. But yeah, keep the mic on is basically what you should know. Keep the mic on, y'all. That is important. So yeah, anyway, I'm very excited for episodes 13 and 14. I don't know if next week we'll be getting to them. I hope so. I really do. But I'm not going to push Reiki, and I'm not going to push the fan. I can't push the people making the fan subtitles, but I'm not going to push Reiki to get it done if they get busy. So either next week you'll have episodes 13 and 14, or there'll be an extra, and then we'll have it the following week. But you'll know next week. It'll be a surprise. Either way, but I'm hoping it's next week because I need episodes 13 and 14. I need them. So, in any case, I'm really excited. I hope you all are too. I'm so sorry the reaction did not work this week. I'm so sorry. Please see the link down below if you want to see my face. If you can read lips, maybe you'll know what I'm saying, but otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episodes, hopefully next week, but I'll be back very soon with episodes 13 and 14 of Link Click. Bye!